This is problem 15.1 from Chapter 15 of Brigham and Houston's Fundamentals of Financial Management, Concise 9th edition. And this is a problem concerning the cash conversion cycle. All right, this particular corporation, they provide you enough information to solve for the cash conversion cycle. And we'll do that. And then the second part of the problem says that if the firm could lower its inventories and receivables by 10% each, which would reduce the amount of assets that needed to be funded, and increase its payables by 10%, which while they're reducing the number of assets that need to be funded, they're also raising new money in accounts payable to fund the existing assets. All of that's going to not affect sales or cost of goods sold. What would be the new cash conversion cycle? And then part 3, how much cash would be freed up? And how would that affect profits? All right, let's start by writing what we know. Sales are $12 million. And to convert the cash conversion cycle, we need 1 day's sales as well. And so that divided by 365 is 1 day's worth of sales. We're told that the cost of goods sold is 75% of sales. So I can also solve for cost of goods sold. That times 0.75. That's my cost of goods sold. Alright, and I also need 1 day's cost of goods sold to solve the problem. Alright, so going from here, I have my inventory, my accounts receivable, and my accounts payable, and those are given in the problem at $3 million of inventory, I have 1.25 million or 3.25 million of receivables and 1.25 million of payables. Alright, so the cash conversion cycle is the inventory conversion period, or days of inventory. Inventory, I'm going to use my terminology. Days of inventory, I think it's simpler. In days of inventory, you just take inventory and divide by 1 day's cost of goods sold. And that means that, on average, the firm is holding about 121 days of inventory in stock. Once they sell it, if they take accounts receivable, then days of receivables means that they still don't receive their cash yet. So accounts receivable, and it's a $3.25 million divided by 1 day's worth of sales, means that it takes about 98.85 days to actually collect. So in between these two, that's over 200 days in between when they buy something to put it on the shelf and when they actually get paid for it. Now, offsetting this is when they buy inventory to put on their shelves, they don't pay cash for it. So the days of payables are accounts payable divided by 1 day's cost of goods sold. All right, and there's variation on these formulas out in the real world, but more or less this is the concept behind it, is how long is cash tied up in net working capital. If I take the days of inventory plus days of receivables minus days of payables, That's the cash conversion cycle. So that number plus that number minus that number, cash conversion cycle of around 170 days. So that's the first answer we're coming up with. All right, now we get to the what ifs. So if Fairmore could lower its inventory and receivables by 10% each and increase payables, all without affecting sales or cost of goods sold. So none of that would change. But this would be lower. Inventory goes from down 10%, goes down to 2,700,000. Accounts receivable goes down 10% to 2,925,000. And accounts payable goes up by 10%, which means that that's a source of the funding. If we look at the changes here, they no longer have to fund $300,000 of inventory. All right, by selling it off and not replacing it, they free up capital of $300,000. Same with the receivables. They're still selling stuff on credit, but they're collecting it faster. And they're also able to borrow some money here through their suppliers. The net change, if I calculate the net impact, it means that there's $500,000 less dollars that they actually have to fund out there. All right. So if I do my calculations, you go from 122 days to 110 days of inventory, about 99 days of receivables to 90 days, and payables increases from 50.5 days to 55.5 days. So my cash conversion cycle drops from 170 to 143. That $500,000 in savings, all right, so the reduction in capital means that I no longer have to borrow or raise money from shareholders. Now, it's given in the problem that this firm pays for its net working capital using a bank loan. Okay, it's not really realistic, but that's okay. We're just this college world. It finances working capital with bank loans at an 8% rate. Okay, we'll go with that. So the reduction in bank loan, which is what pays for all this, would be $500,000. That's how much less it is. The rate on the bank loan, which is given in the problem, is 8%. All right, so loan rate 8%. That would mean that the annual savings in interest expenses, it'd be $40,000 less, which would mean pre-tax profits would increase by the $40,000. All right, and there's the answer.